Because you all love this outfit so much, when I uploaded it on YouTube Shorts, the love was massive. So I decided to show you how I made this beautiful gown you're seeing right here. So if you're ready, let's go. First thing I did was to do a rough sketch of how I want the gown to look like. I drafted for the lower part as well as the upper part and the kind of sleeve that I wanted. Also the neckline. So I'm going to be making use of this pattern paper you're seeing right here. For the upper part, that's the half length, I'm going to be using one pattern paper and that should be on fold. For the back, I'm also going to be using one pattern paper, but that should be, if you're cutting on your fabric, should be two. Then for the front, it should be one pattern. Mind you, your fabric for the front will be on fold. So first thing is to pin the front pattern paper to the back. If you can see the pattern paper clearly, you see that there's a line in front. So I placed the front pattern paper 1.5 inches after the line. So once I was done with that, I measured the width of the shoulder line, which was 8.5 inches for me. Then I marked the neckline, which is 3.5 in width. Then I'm going to be connecting the shoulder line together. You can see where I connected from. Then for the neckline depth, we're going to be going down by 3 inches or 3.5, depending on how deep you want your neckline to be. And I'm going for a round neck. So I'm going to connect it with my free hand just like you see me doing right now. The next thing we're going to be doing on the shoulder line, we're going to be going up by 0.5 inches. This will serve as the seam allowance for the shoulder. Next thing we're going to be doing is to mark our breast point line for mine, which is 10.5 inches. I'm going to be marking the breast point, the under bust. I'm also going to be marking the half length. Then I'm going to be adding 0.5 inch on the lower part of the half length. That will serve as the connecting seam to the lower part of the gown. So once I was done marking the half length, I connected it with a horizontal line, just like you're seeing me doing right now. So this is the front pattern paper, the back. Once I was done with that, now we're going to be labeling it. So right now, the lower part is the half length. I'm going to mark the under bust as well with my marker. Once I did that for the whole part, I connected it with a horizontal line, just like you see me doing right now. Then the next thing will be to mark our breast point. So this is the breast point. I'll mark the line just like I did, but I don't know how this happened. I didn't label it as breast point. So once you're marking yours on your pattern paper, make sure to label it so you don't get confused. So this is the breast point. I marked it. Then from the breast point, I went up by 1.5 inches. Or you can go up by 2 depending on how you want your armhole to be. So I went up by 2 inches. Then from the shoulder point, I connected the line to the points I marked earlier on. Then from the depth of the armhole, I went up by 3.5 inches, then 0.5 inches into the armhole. Then I connected the line to get a smooth curve. Then I blended it with my marker with freehand. You can decide to use your curve rule depending on how comfortable you are with either using freehand or using a curve ruler. Once I was done with that, the next thing we're going to be doing right now is to mark our horizontal measurement. So I'm going to mark my round bust. I'm also going to be adding that. That is going to be 1 inch. So my round bust plus 1 inch for that, plus 1.5 inches for seam allowance. So I'm going to be doing that for the round bust. I'll do that as well for the under bust, and then I'll add seam allowance for the half length as well. Once I was done with marking, the next thing I did was to connect the lines together. Make sure to put in your measurement right, because if you don't do it right, you might go short on fabric, and you don't want that for your clothes. Once I was done with that, this is how it's looking like. Now we are done with the front part of the pattern. The next thing we're going to be doing is cutting the back pattern. First, let's cut out the front, then we can use it to get the back pattern. So for the back, what I did was I marked the shoulder point as well. Then I marked the neckline. I went down by 1.5 inches for the back neckline because I don't want it to be deep. The back neckline is not supposed to be as deep as the front because our back is not the same as our front neck. Once I was done with that, this is how I placed the pattern. You can see where I placed the front pattern. 1.5 inches was what I marked for the back. Then I placed the front pattern on it. That 1.5 inches that I marked is for the zipper. So now we're going to cut. Please look at this closely so you know what you're doing. Now that we are done cutting the side, we're going to be separating the front from the back. Then we'll cut out the back neckline first. You can see what I did there. Then I'm going to place the front. So you can see that the front neckline is different from the back neckline. Alright, once I was done with that, for the zipper allowance at the back, I went in by 1 inch. Then on the back part, I did the same thing. Then I connected the line. This is to avoid zip bulge on the back piece. So once I was done with that, I cut it out. The back pattern is also ready. Don't forget to mark your zipper point so you will know when you're sewing. It will be easier for you. The back pattern will be 2. Then the front pattern will be 1, which will be unfold. Mind you, for your fabric, when you're cutting on your fabric, your back pattern, use this pattern to cut like 2 parts for the back. Then for the front pattern, it should be 1 and it should be unfold. So I also cut out the side. I went up by 1.5 inches and cut out the side to make it sit well on the waistline. I also did the same for the front. Then I connected it. If you want to know where to mark it, what I usually do is that I mark from the fold on the front. I mark 6 or 5.5. Then I blended the side to cut it out so the waist can sit well. Once I was done with that, I cut it out. Also try to cut out your front neckline because I realized I didn't do that earlier. Then also for the lower part of the back zip, I went in by 0.5 inch and then I cut that out. This is also to avoid zip bulge. Different people have different method of doing it, but whatever works for you. So now I'm going to be cutting the lower part of the pattern, which is for the skirt. Some call it skirt, but I call it the lower part because we're going to be connecting it to the half length. I also mark 1.5 for the back part, and then for the front pattern, it's also unfold. So I placed the front on that 1.5 line, pinned it down to avoid it moving around. Once I was done with that, the next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking in our measurement on the pattern paper. First thing first, what you're going to be doing is you insert your waist measurement. Your waist measurement divided by 4. Then you add 1 inch for that. And then you add 1.5 for seam allowance or 1 inch, depending on how much allowance you want on your fabric. Now we'll mark our waist measurements. Your waist divided by 4, 1 inch for that, 1 inch for seam allowance, or 1.5 depending on how wide you want it. So next we're going to be marking our hip line. I marked mine there, so I'll connect the line so I will know where I can take in the curve. This is just like a guide. Marking the hip line is just as a guide. Once you connect the hip line, the next thing we're going to be doing is from the waist, we're going to mark where we want the curve to start from. But before then, I'm going to also be bringing the vertical line. Okay, so now you can see from the waistline, I came down by 3.5 inches. Some people can take 4.5. Then I went inward by 1.5 because I don't want the curve to start directly from the side. It will be difficult to sew. So this way I left an allowance by the side. So I went in by 1.5. So now I'm marking my dart, which is 4.5 inches in width. Once I mark that, so now I'm going to be connecting the line just like you see me doing right now. Once I was done connecting the line, I realized I wanted the curve to go deeper. So I went outside the hip line. I went down again by 3 inches from that point. So you can see how I connected it. Once I was done with the measurements, I'm going to be connecting the lines together. We're almost done with this. Okay, so now we're going to be cutting it out. We're going to start with cutting of the front. You can see how I'm cutting it out. Cut both the front and the back together. So now we're going to be using this pattern to cut our fabric. Remember, your front pattern is on fold. Your back is going to be two piece. The front is just a single piece. On the zipper part, I measured 1 inch and then I cut that part out. Now it's time for us to go cut our fabrics. I'm going to cut the fabric and then I'll bring it for you to see how it looks like. Still on the zipper parts of the back, I still went in by half of an inch to avoid that zip bulge on the upper part of the back. Now this is how it is looking like. I'm done cutting the fabrics using the pattern. You can see for the back, it's actually two piece. See, we have two piece for the back. And also, what we're going to be doing is we'll join the fabrics together. I'm going to be showing you the process. This is the front part of the lower part and it's a single piece on fold. This is how it's looking like. And you can see the design I was talking about, the reason why I used the pattern. Also, this is the back part of the lower parts and we have two pieces. You can see how it's looking like. We're going to be joining the back. So then for the front, we have a single piece as well. For the front pattern is just a single piece for the half length. You can see how it's looking like. I'll open it. You see, it's just one piece and you can see the designs on it. I cut my sleeve off camera. If you want to know how to cut this sleeve, I'm going to be leaving a link to the video regarding a tutorial on this because it's up on the channel as well. You can see the design on the sleeve. We have this leafy design also with other designs of flowers. So it's looking so beautiful. For the gathers, we're going to be making use of length 12 and width of 106. You can see the designs on the fabric we're going to be using for the gathers. The back has no design, but the front has this zigzag design. So this is what I'm going to be using. Now we're going to be joining the upper part of the fabric to the lower part, right side facing each other. Then we're going to be using 1/2 inch to join them together. I'm going to join it off camera and then I'll show you how it looks like after that. Make sure to pin your fabric together so it doesn't shift, so you don't make any mistake. Once I was done pinning, I stitched with 1/2 inch and this is the outcome. Do you like the design? So we're going to be doing the same thing for the back. We're going to join it with 1/2 inch at the zipper. So for the back, the upper part and the lower part, we're going to use 1/2 inch to join them also. Right side facing each other, the lower part and the upper part. This is how you're going to join it. Remember, the back is 2 for the upper part and also 2 for the lower part. So we'll do the same for the left hand side as well. Once we were done with that, this is how it looks like. So now the next thing we're going to be doing is that we're going to join our zipper, and I'm going to be doing that off camera. For the zip, I'm going to use 1 inch to sew it down. This is the zipper I'm going to be making use of. I think the zip length is 24 if I'm not mistaken. So once I was done with fixing the zip, you will see how it looks like. But before then, I'm going to be joining the gathers to the front part. Remember, the front length of the gathers is 12. That's the length of the fabric I'm going to be using for the gather is 12, while the width is 106 for both the front and the back. What I mean is that the front fabric is 106, the back is 106, and I'm going to be joining them separately. What I did was to mark the center point of the fabric where I'm going to be joining it. You see what I'm doing? And I'm going to pin that part. Then I'll run a straight stitch, straight loose stitch on the fabric that I'm going to be using for the gathers. Once I did that, I had to gather it gently, just like this. You can see how the gathers are forming. It's beautiful, right? Make sure you gather it until it fits the parts that the design is going to sit on. So I'm going to join it on one side, then do for the other side as well. Also note that whatever you do for the front, you also repeat for the back. But make sure you fix your zipper before you join the gathers for the back. Once I carefully gathered it, I pinned each corner to avoid mistakes. After gathering everything, I sewed it with 1/2 inch both on the front and as well as on the back. Okay, we're almost done with the stitching. Mind you, I'm stitching both the front and the back. Once I was done, this is the final look. The next thing we're going to be doing is to fold the lower part, attach our sleeve, and we are done. Join the front and the back together, attach your sleeve, and voila, everything will be ready. This is the zipper part for the back. So we're going to be using 1 inch to join both the front and the back fabric together, join the sleeve, then fold the lower part. Once we're done with all of that, it means our fabric, or should I say our style, is ready. You can see how I'm doing it. I joined the shoulder point with 1/2 inch. You can see how I'm placing it with a pin. I don't want any mistake. If you're like me, you pin down your fabric because this fabric right here is very slippery. You have to pin it down to achieve the right results. After I was done arranging it, I stitched it down, joined the sleeve, folded it down, and you know what? The gown is ready. No more stress. I'll see you on the next one.